Hello there, wellness entrepreneur. Welcome back. Today, we're continuing on the Yes Frequency series, and we're talking about yes frequency for delivering on your services as a health practitioner, a wellness entrepreneur. And if you haven't listened to the two previous episodes, we get into yes marketing. So you're showing up in a aligned way that makes you go yes when you're creating content, and from the receiving end, potential clients are like, yes, she gets me. Your words resonate with them. And then we moved into yes selling again for you in terms of feeling like you're showing up in an aligned way on a sales call, or when you're writing your sales page or having sales conversations in a DM, that you're showing up not feeling slimy, icky, or spammy. And from the potential client perspective, they're like, yes, I think I'm in the right place. I need to work with her. And now that we've had this yes journey, they are ready to work with you. They are working with you. You're just starting. How do you create that yes energy now when you're actually delivering upon your services, when you're helping them with specific health goals? That is what we are talking about today specifically. So, when we speak about yes frequency delivery, we are talking about how you show up as the practitioner in your yes energy delivering. A lot of you have many different skills and certifications and tools and techniques that you can use. So when you're in your yes energy in the delivery container, it means that you are aligned with your program. You feel confident about it. You love the price point. You love the structure. You know it's going to support them, the tools within it. You feel good about, you're in alignment. When you have all those pieces of your delivery puzzle put together where it's snapping and working for you, you're going to show up in yes energy. And that also allows them to show up in yes energy when they're going to make hard changes for their health and wellness. Because a lot of times, to make a change and get the result that they want to see in their health and wellness, they have to do something differently, or else they wouldn't need you. So how can you support and guide them on that journey so they can get a great health result? And many wellness practitioners think great results coming from having the perfect protocols or deliverables or videos or portals or the most advanced techniques. But here's what I discovered after working with a lot of wellness practitioners. And as some of you know, having Lynch syndrome and some health issues myself, I work with a lot of practitioners. Plus, I just keep growing from a self evolution standpoint and growing my own business. So I'm also working with a lot of practitioners in that sense as well. So I've worked with a lot of people. And the practitioners who help me create amazing results aren't necessarily the most skilled, meaning they don't have the most certifications. They don't have flashy degrees like doctorates. Some of them do, but not all of them. The ones that help me the most are the ones that are willing to let go of the rigid protocols and frameworks, especially if a guru has handed it down and said, it used to be kind of a dogmatic way where this is the way you do it. It's step by step. It has to be done this way, and almost a cookie cutter format. But the practitioner there is actually willing to listen to me, what's going on in my body, what's going on in my nervous system, what's going on in my mind, where I'm really struggling, and able to let go of a cookie cutter framework and meet me where I'm at and think creatively and work with me. That's where I get the best results. And I find the same is true for helping a lot of my clients. Personally, this is how I do this in my one-to-one containers and even in the Instagram group program and the Awaken Mastermind group program as well. Even when there's multiple practitioners in there, I don't have rigid cookie cutter formulas where you have to come in and do step one to get to step two, to get to step three, etc. I'm able to listen to where a practitioner might be and where they're struggling in their business. Is it strategy? Is it mindset? Is it energetics? Is it a combination? And where in all that process, are they stuck, and then meet them where they're at and point them in the right direction. A lot of my clients just love that. They love being pointed in the specific area that is individualized to them and then getting structure around that specifically. And I find that sometimes when you're a new practitioner, having those frameworks and that cookie cutter process to follow and go along with, so you ensure that, okay, at least I can help move clients in the right direction and get them results. And I have a formula or a protocol that has worked for other practitioners in the past to help clients get results. So I know possibly it can work for me. I think it's a good place to start. But then, as practitioners, we need to start developing our own frameworks, our own protocols, synthesizing and combining all our certifications and making, yes, our own intellectual property and frameworks and protocols, but not that people have to follow through with it so rigidly. And then, if they're not following through with it or canceling or rescheduling or not doing the homework, and we're going to get into this, it's not taking it personally that they don't like you, they don't like the program, or they're not valuing the program, they're not valuing your time. No, it's none of that. Okay, sometimes it is, but truthfully, there's usually a reason why they're not valuing your work. It might be that you haven't educated them enough or figured out why they're not valuing it so much and work on that. And it's very different than when we're taught in, especially I know from getting my doctorate and going through many, 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 many trainings, is that we're taught to say, okay, this is what's wrong with you. This is how we're going to fix it. This is what you must do. Listen to me, follow my framework. And I think as we move forward in health and wellness, it needs to be more collaborative. And that really is going to set you apart from the Western medicine model that is not working for them, because they're showing up to the Western medicine model and they're getting handed prescriptions or these very rigid protocols or ideas in a very short amount of time, 3 or 4 minutes, or lab values are considered normal, et cetera, et cetera. Where if you're able to really listen to them and understand what's going on in every session, you're evaluating, okay, are they getting results? Are they moving forward? Are we seeing progress? And if not, why? Why is that? From the place of compassion. And that is how you're able to utilize all your trainings, all your certifications, and be in that yes energy and refresh day after day. I get asked, like, I recently was having someone shadowing me for a number of hours on my coaching calls, and she asked me how I have the energy day after day to have so many coaching calls. And this is one of the reasons, because I am so present with each call, with each client, and each client, each call is so different. None of them are like another. And it was same and true when I had my brick and mortar. No session was like the other. Sometimes it was mostly body work, but within the body work, what was I doing? Some myofascial release, sometimes some PNF, or someone might do a little myofascial release and get on the yoga wall. But what type of yoga wall? Is it more active yoga wall? Is it more in strengthening and building and maybe bringing in some TRX? Or is someone, if we're doing yoga, needing more restorative? And then we're bringing in some mindset and visualization and breath work. For each person, it can be so different, and it should be, and it allows you to be present with them. And where each session is so different, you're not getting burnout doing the same old, same old. The only reason why you might start to lean towards burnout is only because your brain really, if you feeling like you're having to think of these very complex or creative things to do every session where it feels shiny and new and spectacular, that's a lot of pressure on yourself to perform or have certain expectations. And that can cause an energy leak, that can be a burnout. But here's the truth: most clients don't have that, right? They don't know a shiny protocol, a fancy protocol, a complex or creative protocol from another, because they haven't taken the certifications or trainings that you have. And truthfully, all they care about is the simplest, fastest, doable way to get the health results that they want. And so sometimes less is more, simple is better. And remembering that always when we're in the yes frequency delivering. The other part of this yes frequency delivering is it's not about you. right? It's helping them to get the results that they're really seeking and desiring. It's making sure that when they said hell yes to working with you, that each time they show up, it continues to be a hell yes in the experience where they feel like they found exactly the right person at the right time. And it's for yourself embodying being their ideal practitioner. So your clients not only get amazing results, but they become raving fans who can't stop talking about you. And often we think about, oh, okay, I have my ideal client that I want to work with, and she's going to be this or this, and she values her health. She's ready to spend money. She's going to have no objections. She's going to show up to every appointment and give it her all. She's going to do her homework. She's not going to cancel last minute. She's not going to complain, right? We have our list of what our ideal client looks like. And here's the truth. Often, when we go in from that perspective, we're filtering out a lot of clients that really need our help. We're also filtering out a lot of money that could come into our business. And really, the perspective shift that you want to take on instead or consider is actually, how can I be the ideal practitioner for them? And if I were the ideal practitioner for them, how would I show up? What would I do if they did cancel? How could I be that ideal practitioner for them? How can I show up if they came and they said, oh, I didn't actually implement last week's homework? And I can tell you, if you take the time to think about this for yourself, it will change everything. And there's so much less pressure that you're coming from a place of compassion and forgiveness. You give so much more flexibility and freedom in your day. And I can tell you from, again, my side, I can feel it when a practitioner is so rigid to their schedule. They are so rigid to their protocols and frameworks. It doesn't feel good. It's not a good experience. It doesn't feel collaborative. It feels more like that Western medicine model that truthfully doesn't work for a lot of people, the majority of it, right? There's some components of Western medicine that's great that we want. And just like there'll be some structure in your programs, but we don't want to be so rigid. I'll give you an example. I remember to this day, so my daughter's 10 years old now. So this is 10 years ago when I was pregnant. I have a hairstylist that I still go to this day. And back then, I'd still been working with her a number of years. Wow, we've really been together a long time. And so I remember I'm pretty good. I really do. I try to be a great client when I show up to my practitioners, but I'm a human being, right? So sometimes I don't get my homework in, or I struggle, or I procrastinate, or, I might not want to do certain things or make certain changes, but I really do try. And if I'm struggling, I try to have the self awareness to bring it up to the practitioner and say why. Now, a lot of people don't because they might not be a sophisticated buyer. And I don't mean this in a condescending way. I just mean it as you might be the first practitioner outside of Western medicine that they're actually working with someone with for their specific problems. So they just might not know the ropes. They might not know how it goes. They might not even know what mindset means, for example. So I try to be a good practitioner, but again, I'm a human being. And I try to not cancel last minute. I try to always show up to my appointments and never flake, right? All these things that we hope of our ideal clients. But when I was pregnant, I had some serious pregnancy brain. And I showed up, I think, on one appointment the wrong day and time. So I flaked on the appointment by accident. I think I showed up a half hour or an hour late. And so I was sitting in the salon waiting for her, and 10 minutes went by and she wasn't there and her room was dark. And I was like, huh, that's strange because she rarely ever flakes either. And so I messaged her and she was like, oh no, your appointment was an hour ago. And I felt horrible. I felt so bad because I just either put it into my calendar wrong, or I'm not sure exactly what happened in that pregnancy brain moment. And so we just rescheduled. And I just remember being so grateful that she didn't write me off as a client because I really value going and getting my hair done with her. It's easy. We have a good routine. I dreaded looking for another person who would get my hair. I try to get to know them and their rhythm, or even having to wait another 6 weeks to get in a new hairstylist schedule, right? I was so grateful that she was just accommodating and understanding, even though she's never had children herself. and can't personally relate to pregnancy brain. She was just like, she just said, "Oh, yeah, that happens once in a while," and graciously just rescheduled me. And I just knew how that felt. I felt so supported. I felt so cared for. I was felt like she's just really gets me and understands me. And I felt her compassion. And I was like, that is what I want to do for my people. And I do try to do that to my people because some things show up. And this is true when I was a brick and mortar practitioner and with my coaching clients as well, is that, once in a while, client needs to reschedule last minute, or once in a while, I'll get a client who does not show up on a call. And I'll tell you, the flaking is very, very little, but it does happen once in a while. And I have so much work on my to-do list. It's easy for me to just send them a message and then move on to crossing something off my to-do list with that time and not bat an eye or have an energy or time leak thinking about, oh, they don't value my appointments, da 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 da. And I just offer to reschedule it to them. I figure out what's going on, and they're offering so grateful. And truthfully, there's been times where I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I had that extra 50 minutes to work on this thing. I just got something that really needed to be done. I just got it done. So, we don't want late rescheduling. We don't want last minute cancels, right? So we do want to enforce our policies and our boundaries there. But when it does happen once in a while, I think we can have a little bit more compassion. And I think if people aren't implementing what we're telling them in terms of making changes to their healthy lifestyle or how they're showing up in their own health and wellness, then I think we can again hold compassion and hold space and get curious and ask them, what is going on? And instead of being oh gosh, I can't tell you the number of physical therapists I hear this from. Oh, they just don't value my time, or they don't value my work or what I'm doing as a practitioner because they didn't do their home exercises. And I'm like, have you asked them why? They might be a busy mom with 3 kids and they're coming to see you postpartum for that third baby that's new and they're just so overwhelmed and in over their heads. Like, you can coach them so much there. And as physical therapists, we're not taught this in physical therapy school at all. We're just that they're a non-compliant patient from this very judgmental way. And I don't think that serves us as practitioners. I don't think it serves, of course, them to be judged that way. And of course, it doesn't serve our business. I think we can hold boundaries and not let people walk all over us. Yes. But I think part of the yes frequency delivery experience is really showing up as our client's ideal practitioner in a nutshell. And if you were to take time and really journal on that, what it would mean to show up as their ideal practitioner, I think how you would show up in the selling, the yes frequency selling energy would be really different. And you're getting it right in that yes frequency energy for you and them when you can be more flexible. You do feel more freedom in their business. You're able to pivot and turn as needed. And your clients will be saying things like, I knew you were the right person for me. This feels like exactly what I needed. I'm so glad I did this. I can't imagine working with anyone else. This is the program I exactly need. I'm so grateful I found you. And I hear those type of phrases and sentences all the time from my client. And I'm grateful for them too. I love working with them. So we sometimes as practitioners think what's going to get the results is our protocols and our techniques and our skills. And yes, that's true. But it's not only what you do in those sessions, it's how you show up as who they need to be. I'll say that again. It's not only what you're doing in the sessions, it's in how you show up as who they need to be. And every client has an internal image of their ideal practitioner. There's going to be some subtle shifts person to person. Maybe it's someone who's calm when they're anxious, confident when they're uncertain, compassionate when they're really struggling, gentle when they're being hard on themselves, or maybe not hard enough on themselves or not pushing themselves enough. And when you embody some of those qualities they need the most, everything shifts. So how do you do this? Let's talk about the 3 things that you want to make happen within your sessions and programs. Number 1 is deep trust. So they can relax into the process because they feel that you're exactly who they need and they trust you and they trust the program. enhanced results. So their nervous system is calm and open, which accelerates the healing and has an open mind and nervous system to bring in hard work. And then raving advocacy. They become your biggest cheerleaders because working with you feels like destiny. Think about a practitioner for yourself who made a huge impact in your life. I bet it wasn't just the skills that made the difference, it was how they showed up for you. They probably embodied exactly what you needed at that moment in your journey. And if you haven't had that experience yet, I would look at that because every practitioner I work with, I try to get results from, and I try to show up as a client ready to do the work. And if I'm having feelings about my practitioner, I'll get curious as to why. But regardless of how the practitioner showed up, I try to make the most out of every program or every practitioner I work with. So I get benefit from everywhere I show up. And I feel very in alignment when I say that. The difference is whether I renew and continue on in a scenario, often will be how I felt during the experience. And that is the yes frequency delivery. So if you feel like you've had a lot of practitioners and haven't got results or achieved the progress that you want, whether that's in business or your own health, I would take a look at that, or relationships, whatever it might be. I would take a look at that because if you worked with a lot of people, what's the common denominator? And I say this in a very loving way. It's you. And I only say that because, again, I've been in a lot of coaching and practitioner programs. And it's the one thing I hear across the board from my coaches as they tell us in learning how to get a return on our investment. It's being able, if we're not getting that return, it's the willingness to look at ourselves and see why are we not getting that return, and not gaslighting ourselves or spiritually bypassing if a container isn't right for you, but even looking at why and then how you ended up in that position in the first place, and not putting all the responsibility and the blame on a program or a practitioner. It can really change everything for yourself in terms of return on investment for yourself and anything that you investment. And when you do get more returns on your investments, you're going to show up more confidently selling your own programs because you'll know what it feels like to get a return, to struggle and then see progress. You're going to double down on that same process for your clients. So I do feel like because of this and feeling the experience from both ends, that's why I do really believe that if you are a practitioner, that if there is an area of your life, or especially in your business where you're struggling, that you do seek out help and work with practitioners. It'll just make you a better practitioner too. I can't say that enough. Okay, when you master the yes frequency delivery, everything in your practice transforms. Your clients trust you completely. Instead of questioning every recommendation or needing extensive explanations, they follow your guidance because they feel like you truly understand their specific situation. Results come faster because they feel like they're with the right practitioner. Their nervous system relaxes and their body becomes more receptive to healing. When what used to take months might now happen in weeks. Referrals become effortless. Your clients don't just refer people because you're good. They refer people because working with you felt like such a perfect fit that they want all their loved ones and friends and family to experience the same thing. And then again, you feel energized by your work. Instead of feeling drained by difficult clients, you feel lit up because you're showing up as your most aligned professional self. And truthfully, you have a lot less difficult clients. I rarely have difficult clients. I have clients that have challenging and complex cases or situations in your life or mindsets. But I look at it like a puzzle and a challenge. Okay, how can I meet them where they're at? I might need to do things a little bit differently or creatively, or maybe even simplify more than I'm used to. But it doesn't mean that they're a difficult client. Okay, so let's get practical a little bit. Here are two core strategies for your yes frequency delivery. Strategy number one, the ideal practitioner avatar method. Before every session, you can spend a few minutes connecting with who this specific client needs you to be, not what you expect them to be. Most practitioners show up the same way with every client. Yes, frequency delivery means consciously embodying the practitioner each client is seeking. So here's a process. You identify their core need. What's their goal for that session? And how does it fit within their bigger picture goal? What do they need from you most right now? Safety, confidence, permission, structure, space, and a compassionate ear. And then amplify that quality in yourself. If they need safety, emphasize your grounding presence. If they need permission, bring your playful rebelliousness. If they're really struggling and they need help strategizing, bring your creative mind. And then number three, embody it from the first moment. Let this quality infuse how you greet them, how you hold space, and how you end the session. So, for example, when that practitioner was shadowing me, she was like, wow, I've never heard a practitioner ask so many questions. And that is how I identify their core need. I get curious. If they show up and say something to me, I say, okay, let's take a practical example. We had talked about and created together an Instagram reel that they literally just had to pretty much copy and paste. They had some strategies for creating the video if they actually didn't do it, or maybe they were to write an email. And if they actually didn't do it in between our sessions, I'll get curious. Yeah, tell me why. What were you thinking? What came up? Or what happened in your schedule? And I just ask a lot of questions about it. From there, then I can see what's going on. Maybe we need a different strategy. Maybe we need more mindset. But I don't know which way to go until the client actually tells me. And how they tell me is by me asking questions. And from there, then I can give a more efficient approach that's very individualized to them. And then we can problem solve for the situation. So, for example, for you, you might work with overwhelmed moms who need more permission to prioritize themselves. It's not that she's non compliant in your exercises, it's that she's putting everyone else before her, and her schedule is completely always booking up from the second she wakes in the morning. Someone's calling mom, 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 or needs her help from the second she goes to bed. And she literally does not know how to stop that to fit in the exercises. And for you as the practitioner, you see her worth and you see where that struggle is by asking the questions of what's going on. And then you refuse to jump in the pool with her and instead strategize to help figure out the schedule or the mindset so she can actually, maybe you help fit it in the schedule in one session. And if she still doesn't do it, then maybe there's a mindset issue going on, or she has a fear of saying no to someone or disappointing someone or putting herself first. Then that's what you need to work on, not just give her more exercises. Or maybe you have a skeptical client who's been let down before. You need to be the practitioner who's steady and consistent and patient and proves trustworthiness through actions. Or you have a client who's a perfectionist and is afraid of doing it wrong. And because of that, they're not making new healthy lifestyle changes because they don't want to do it wrong or they don't want to be a beginner again. So you need to embody the practitioner who helps them to make mistakes and creates safety around making mistakes and doing something new and guide them through seeing progress with that. So then strategy two is the energetic matching framework. This is all about matching your energy to what will serve their nervous systems in a given moment in a session. So most practitioners have a default energy of what they bring to sessions. Yes, frequency delivery means consciously calibrating your energy to what will help the client access their healing state. Now, this does not mean that you have to be on 100% every day as a practitioner, because some days I can't tell you. My husband and I, this is a little personal and vulnerable, but there was a time where my husband and I went through a challenging time. And there were some mornings where I would be crying hysterically. I'll just have just gotten my daughter off to school. It was a really rough morning. And I'd be crying hysterically in the 20 minutes or a half hour before my first call. Now, that day, I'm not showing up 100% coffee lit up in my vibe, confident energy. I'm showed up like confused. I'm often hurt. Maybe I'm questioning myself, right? I show up in a very raw place. Or when I was going through my cancer journeys and surgeries, I was showing up very confused as a wellness practitioner. I felt a lot of shame. How can I teach wellness when I'm not feeling well myself? But here's the truth. You can still show up on really hard days for yourself, not being perfect in your 100% perfect vibe energy, whatever that means to you. You don't need that at all to get client results. All you need to do is to show up in this energetic matching framework where you're just present to them and what they need in the moment. And truthfully, what I've found is when I am going through a hard time and I'm able to put that on the nightstand, so to speak, and be fully present with my client, I love it. It is a wonderful reprieve from hard stuff going on in your life because you can take your mind off yourself and your problems for an hour or however long your sessions are and focus on someone else. And giving and being of service to someone else or seeing someone else shift in a session and feel better, oh my gosh, feels so amazing that sometimes when you revisit the problems later that day, you're able to look at them from a new perspective, or you're more regulated yourself. So you're able to problem solve for the future. So just know that this does not mean showing up yourself perfectly energized every day. This is about presence of what your client needs. And then following all that, you want to have the compassionate witness approach. And this is about holding space for their humanity instead of, again, judging their compliance. It's radically different from what we're taught in school. Here's a simple question. Instead of saying, you didn't do your exercises this week, we can't make progress if you don't follow through, let me explain why, again, this matters. Notice how that feels for yourself versus the compassionate witness. It sounds like something got in the way of your movement practice this week. I'm curious, what was that about? Sometimes our resistance has important information for us. What happened when you went to try to implement your movement practice? Tell me, I'm curious. What feels better to you? Which one would make you feel safe to tell the truth? And remember, getting to that truth, that's what's going to help create the awareness and give you the ability to help to implement change. Which one would you want to keep? Which practitioner would you want to keep working with? Remember, if they could do all this perfectly on their own, they wouldn't have hired you. Their struggles with their consistency, their self-sabotage, their resistance, it's not a character flaw. It's just their nervous system trying to keep them safe in all these various different ways, depending on what happened in their life prior, or even generational inherited patterns that they now have. When you show up as a practitioner who holds compassionate space for their mistakes, something magical happens. They stop hiding in their struggles and the truth emerges so you can get down to the real healing. When they need to cancel or reschedule, instead of getting frustrated, get curious. I noticed you needed to reschedule a few times lately. How are you doing? Sometimes our schedule struggles are connected to what we're working on together. And that might not seem like it for you, but often how we live one area of our life is how we live other areas of our life. And you might be able to help them in deeper ways than you actually realize just by asking that question. How are you? And so you're not allowing late cancels or these reschedules to happen all the time. You're still addressing them, but in a very compassionate way. This isn't about enabling or lowering standards. This is understanding that sustainable change happens through self-compassion, not self-criticism. You're modeling the internal relationship they also need to develop for themselves. So if you're thinking, this sounds like I need to be a different person with every client, it feels exhausting and inauthentic. Here's the key. You're not becoming a different person. You're just amplifying different aspects of who you already are to be present with what your client is needing. We all have multiple qualities within us. And yes, this might stretch you some, but it's going to make you an amazing practitioner for a more diverse group of people. Yes, frequency delivery is all about consciously bringing forward qualities that will best serve a specific client. And you might be thinking, well, what if I get this wrong? What if I embody the wrong energy, or I'm not present, or I'm not regulated myself and I don't realize till after the session? Your client will tell you. If you're showing up calm and they need more energy, they'll seem flat or disconnected. If you're bringing high energy and they need more grounding, they'll seem overwhelmed. The beauty is you can adjust in real time or in the future, or follow up if you feel like you got off the session and was like, that could have went a little bit better. Message them. Ask them how they felt. Ask them if they got the takeaway. Ask them if they're feeling like they're seeing progress. And then from there, you can problem solve. The willingness to attune to what they need, even if you don't get it perfect, is often exactly what they need. And they'll really appreciate that. And you will become their ideal practitioner. So have so much fun doing this. It can really change your practice. It can really light you up and really affect how you're marketing and selling your program too, because now you're really excited to work with all these different people and you know that you can handle a diverse group of people and diverse challenges. For me personally, if I have that kind of judgy feeling of filtering and trying to find the right client, it feels so much more constrictive in both my marketing and selling. But if I'm open and confident with my skills and my approaches and my just ability to be present and ask questions, it's so much more opening for my marketing and selling. And then, of course, for my delivery. So that's what I have for you this week. I'd love to hear your takeaways and what you think of this. You can respond. Spotify has the ability for you to leave comments. I would love to hear it, or send me a DM on Instagram. Make sure you're following me there if you're not already, or leave a review on Apple. I would really love to hear this. Share this with a friend that might be really doubting their own practitioner skills, or feeling like they have a lot of problem child, they're attracting a lot of problem child clients. This episode could be really helpful for them, and they'll thank you for that. All right, so I will see you next week. Have a great week working with your clients and being that ideal practitioner for them, and being in the yes energy for you and them. All righty, see you soon. Bye.